Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the scandalous and thrilling world of Los Angeles fashion and family drama. Today is a fantastic day to unpack the explosive secrets shaking the foundation of our favorite daytime universe. The atmosphere within the glamorous, brightly lit corridors of Forrester Creations has always been thick with ambition, romance, and corporate espionage, but a suffocating darkness is now bleeding through the cracks of this glittering empire. For weeks, a creeping, insidious dread has been stalking the periphery of Melissa Dillon's fragile new life. The ringing of a phone, once a mundane sound of daily business, has transformed into a harbinger of absolute terror. The disguised, metallic voice on the other end of the line, whispering promises of unfinished business, has systematically dismantled Dillon's psychological stability. She has spent her days looking over her shoulder, her nights plagued by cold sweats, and her every waking moment consumed by the paralyzing fear that the ghosts of her past have finally found her. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared her for the catastrophic reality of the identity behind that disguised voice. The revelation does not come as a quiet confession or a corporate unmasking. It arrives in a moment of pure, unadulterated horror that shatters the very fabric of Melissa Dillon's reality and threatens to plunge the entire canvas into a vortex of lethal danger. The climax of this psychological torture unfolds in a setting that perfectly mirrors the isolation and despair of our tormented protagonist. It is a terrifying, heart-stopping jump scare that forces Melissa Dillon to finally confront the malevolent force that has been hunting her. As the shadows part and the physical manifestation of her stalker steps into the cold, unforgiving light, Dillon's world stops spinning. The face staring back at her is not that of a disgruntled former colleague, a corporate rival, or a random extortionist. It is a face she believed was buried forever beneath the heavy soil of tragedy and time. It is Luna Nozawa. The sheer impossibility of this moment strikes Dillon with the force of a physical blow. Luna is supposed to be dead. She is supposed to be gone, a tragic casualty of a dark and convoluted history that Dillon has desperately tried to outrun. Yet, here she stands, a phantom materialized in the flesh, or perhaps a flawlessly cruel impostor designed to break Dillon's sanity into a million jagged pieces. The internal collapse of Melissa Dillon is instantaneous and visceral. The air is violently sucked from her lungs, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird desperately seeking escape. The human mind is not equipped to process the resurrection of the dead, and Dillon is immediately thrust into a state of absolute, paralyzing panic. If this is truly Luna Nozawa, returning from the grave with a vengeance that defies the laws of nature, then Dillon is facing a supernatural reckoning. But if this is an imposter, a meticulously crafted duplicate hired by some unseen, malevolent architect, the psychological warfare is even more terrifying. To wear the face of a dead girl, to weaponize the specific, haunting features of Luna Nozawa against the woman who holds the darkest secrets of her demise, requires a level of cruelty and resources that Dillon cannot even begin to comprehend. Regardless of whether she is looking at a ghost or a masterpiece of deception, the result is the same. Melissa Dillon's carefully constructed new life has just been detonated. The confrontation quickly devolved from silent shock into a nightmare of extortion. The figure wearing Luna's face does not merely stand as a silent accusation. She speaks, and her words are laced with venom and absolute authority. The stalker holds the ultimate trump card, threatening to release irrefutable evidence of Melissa Dillon's direct involvement in the scandalous murder that claimed Luna's life in the past. This is not a vague threat of corporate sabotage or romantic exposure. This is a promise of complete and utter annihilation. The evidence, whatever its specific nature, is enough to ensure that Dillon will spend the rest of her life behind bars, her name forever synonymous with deception and bloodshed. The stalker makes a twisted, quixotic demand, a task so morally bankrupt and dangerous that it makes Dylan's blood run cold. She is given an impossible ultimatum: execute this quixotic demand, or watch as the evidence is broadcasted to the authorities, the media, and the Forster family, who graciously gave her a second chance. To understand the sheer magnitude of Dylan's desperation, one must delve into the agonizing context of her current existence. Melissa Dillon is a survivor of the harshest realities the world has to offer. She recently clawed her way out of the abyss of homelessness, trading the terrifying vulnerability of sleeping in her car for the security and prestige of a position at Forster Creations. Her job is not just a career. It is her lifeline, her shelter, her only defense against the unforgiving streets of Los Angeles. The threat of losing this sanctuary is enough to drive her to the brink of madness. If this murder scandal is exposed, she does not just lose her paycheck. She loses her freedom, her dignity, and her future. The paralyzing fear of returning to a life of destitution, compounded by the threat of a prison sentence, strips Dillon of any rational thought. She is a cornered animal, entirely stripped of her agency, staring down the barrel of a loaded gun held by a ghost. Driven to the absolute edge of human endurance, Dillon realizes with sickening clarity that she cannot fight this battle alone. The walls are closing in with suffocating speed, and the sheer weight of the Stalker's twisted demand requires resources and cunning that Dillon simply does not possess. In her frantic, blind panic, she is forced to seek salvation from the darkest, most chaotic sources available to her. It is in this moment of profound vulnerability that she collides with Daphne Rose Walton. Daphne, entirely consumed by her own agonizing struggles with severe infertility and the psychological devastation of her failing family plans with Carter, has recently extended a life-altering, inescapable offer to Dillon. Previously, Dillon might have viewed Daphne's proposition with caution or outright rejection, recognizing the chaotic vortex it represented. But now, held hostage by the face of Luna Nozawa and the threat of a murder charge, Dillon has no luxury of choice. She accepts Daphne's dark bargain, intertwining her fate with a woman who is acting out of her own profound, unhealed grief. This unholy alliance sets the stage for a catastrophic chain reaction that will spare no one in its path. The tragedy of Melissa Dillon's predicament is that her desperate thrashing to stay afloat inevitably creates a massive, destructive undertow. As she scrambles to fulfill the Stalker's twisted demand and navigate her dangerous new pact with Daphne, she inadvertently begins to drag the innocent and the not. Will, currently nursing a broken heart and waiting in agonizing suspense for Electra Forster to make her final romantic choice, has always possessed a dangerous savior complex. Despite the messy romantic quadrangle they find themselves in, Will genuinely cares for Dillon. When he senses the erratic, terrified shifts in her behavior, his instinct will not be to pull away, but to step closer. He will want to protect her, to uncover the source of her profound terror. But Will has no idea that by extending a hand to Melissa Dillon, he is reaching directly into a viper's nest of blackmail, murder, and resurrected ghosts. His noble intentions are a fatal vulnerability, positioning the Spencer heir directly in the line of fire of a scandal that could destroy his family's legacy. Simultaneously, the arrogant and manipulative R.J. Forrester is unwittingly stepping onto the same deadly battlefield. R.J. has been operating under the delusion that he is the master manipulator in this scenario. Driven by a fierce, jealous desire to win Electra's heart and permanently exile Will from her life, R.J. has been actively trying to leverage his corporate power to force Dillon into sabotaging Will and Electra's potential reunion. R.J. knows about Dillon's paralyzing fear of homelessness and has been mercilessly exploiting it, believing he is playing a sophisticated game of corporate chess. But R.J.'s arrogance blinds him to the true nature of the game. He looks at Dillon's terror and sees only leverage. He does not see the reflection of Luna Nozawa's ghost standing right behind her. As RJ pushes Dylan harder, demanding her compliance in his petty romantic schemes, he is inadvertently backing a woman who is already holding a live grenade. RJ's attempts to control Dylan will inevitably force him to cross paths with her stalker, pulling the golden boy of Forrester Creations into a dark, violent underworld he is entirely unequipped to survive. The bitter, escalating rivalry between Will Spencer and RJ Forrester over the heart of Elektra has consumed both of their lives, defining their every interaction with hostility and jealousy. Yet, the supreme irony of their current trajectory is that this romantic feud is about to be entirely eclipsed by a literal life-or-death scenario. As Dylan's panic deepens and the stalker's deadline approaches, the boundaries between her professional life, her romantic entanglements, and her criminal blackmail will violently collapse. Will and RJ, two young men who cannot stand the sight of one another, are about to find themselves tethered to the same nightmare. They will be dragged into the labyrinthine cover-up of a past murder scandal, forced to navigate the terrifying reality of Luna Nozawa's return, and compelled to make impossible moral choices to survive the fallout. The glamorous world of high fashion will be stripped away, leaving only the primal, desperate instinct to survive the darkness that Melissa Dillon has unleashed upon them. The psychological toll this storyline promises to deliver is unprecedented. We are witnessing the systematic deconstruction of Melissa Dillon, a character who fought so hard to build a life out of nothing, only to have it ripped away by the very sin she thought she had buried. The imagery of her being haunted by Luna's face, whether a true ghost of the past or a malevolent imposter, creates a suffocating atmosphere of dread that permeates every scene. The audience is left to grapple with the chilling questions: who is truly behind this orchestration? If it is an imposter, who possesses the intimate knowledge of the murder scandal and the resources to execute such a flawless psychological attack? And what exactly is the twisted demand that Dylan is being forced to carry out? This demand is the linchpin of the entire narrative, a task so dark that it requires Dylan to sacrifice whatever remains of her innocence and drag the men around her into the abyss. As the week unfolds, the tension will reach an absolute crescendo. The halls of Forrester Creations, currently distracted by the corporate warfare between Steffi, Hope, and Brooke, are entirely unaware of the lethal cancer growing within their ranks. While the executives battle over co-CEO seats and couture lines, Melissa Dillon is fighting a desperate, bloody war for her very survival. The juxtaposition of the trivial corporate squabbles against the backdrop of murder, blackmail, and resurrected ghosts highlights the profound tragedy of Dillon's isolation. She is screaming in a crowded room, but no one can hear her over the sound of their own ambition. It is this isolation that makes her reliance on Daphne's chaotic offer so inevitable, and her entanglement of Will and RJ so devastating. She is a drowning woman, and in her frantic struggle for air, she is pulling everyone down with her. Ultimately, the revelation of Luna Nozawa's identity as the mysterious stalker is a masterstroke of dramatic storytelling that fundamentally alters the landscape of the show. It bridges the gap between past tragedies and present conflicts, ensuring that the sins of history are never truly washed away. For Melissa Dillon, the road ahead is paved with impossible choices, terrifying confrontations, and the constant, looming threat of complete annihilation. For Will Spencer and RJ Forrester, their petty rivalry is about to be replaced by a desperate fight for survival as they are pulled into a vortex of guilt and danger that threatens to destroy all their futures. The stage is set for a catastrophic collision of secrets, lies, and survival, and we will be watching every heart-stopping